Thank you. I know you love me. I know you love me. It's okay. When do you need to say? I don't know, maybe. Before we move far, I'd like to take 30 seconds and welcome the guests that have come to join us. Tell you what we're planning and ensure that everyone has all of the tools needed. Could you do what you do with these things so that they won't do what they do? Okay? Thank you. Dana. See, I was going to say it twice. Dana, visiting us from Centretown Toastmasters, and Angela from Espresso Toastmasters. Welcome to both of you. We are here each and every Monday night, except for holidays. And so if you want to come and visit anytime, you're more than welcome. Let's give a warm welcome to both Dan and Angela. See, Sanjeev, if you would come more regular, you would know that that's Mario. And Mario dropped off both his application and money last week. So, Mario wave. Sanjeev, Mario. You should have an evaluation and a worksheet in front of you. Is there anyone that does not have either of these documents? Yay! Al will tell you all about that as we go forward. For those of you that came expecting to have a role, Corey, well, Maria's doing Maria's role. I'll take the blame. My fault. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I know back to the eye. Anybody and everybody who happened to come with a role that didn't get the corrected email and the agenda outlining what's planned for tonight, I'll wear that, and I apologize. And I spent a little bit of time today updating the website for how we do agendas, so that this ought to be better planned for our future events that have special occasion events. We no longer have just 3 templates, we have 5, but that's another story. With no further ado, isn't that? Al Sullivan, Advanced Communicator Silver and Advanced Leader Bronze, has been a member of East Ottawa for 3.5 years. Currently serving as past president and the mentor coordinator of East Ottawa, he's also served as our club treasurer in the past. Currently, he is in the role of Area 32 Governor. Has anybody not been exposed to what an area governor is? Everyone knows what an area governor is. Providing oversight to the clubs that all belong to an area. Area 32. He is currently working towards becoming a distinguished Toastmaster. Say, and hopes to accomplish that goal in the next year or so. Say, ah. Ah. In his time here at EOT, Al has come to realize that improving his public speaking has not been the biggest benefit of joining Toastmasters. He has become a better communicator, but he's also become a better leader. Hi, that's Diego. And is a strong believer, supporter, and promoter of the leadership track in Toastmasters. He has received accolades from his manager at work and on his improved leadership skills. Say yay. Yay. Most importantly, he has received generous compliments on his ability to receive and offer feedback to and from his teammates at meetings and on working groups. Al credits us directly towards performing evaluations. Prior to taking an evaluation workshop at the TLI in the spring of 2013, he wouldn't have entered an evaluation contest. He loathed giving evaluations. Yet after taking that workshop, he went on to finish second at the Division C evaluation contest that fall by applying the skills that he learned throughout that workshop. And it is now one of his favorite roles within the Toastmaster program. That workshop is the basis of what will be presented today, with his own little spin on it. He hopes that you walk out this evening with the same experience and confidence that he did that day. Please welcome Al Sullivan with the Art of Effective Evaluation, Al style. The Art of Effective Evaluation, you guys are so eager. That's cool. The Art of Effective Evaluation, Al style. Al style.
Thank you very much, Jim, I don't think I could have written that better myself.
Yes, you did.
Actually, I stole that joke from Jim, believe it or not. And actually, I stole this presentation as well. I won't lie. I have adapted it to my own little style. That's why I called it Al style. But this presentation was originally done by Laura Gagne and Stephen Gagne, well-known Toastmasters in the region. Mother and son, you can never tell. And they're both distinguished Toastmasters. I don't know which club they're in. I know they're in the Advanced Club. I'm not sure what other club they're in. Advanced Club is an Area 32 club, by the way.
They're also both in Avance Synergy.
Avance Synergy as well. They wrote this presentation, and they deliver, various forms have been delivered of it since I've noticed it. And it's probably one of the strongest evaluation presentations around, just because it's very easy to do. And today I'm going to walk you through it. We're going to have a few things we're going to go through. First, I'm going to explain the BMO evaluation technique, and that's what this presentation is all about. We're then going to have a test speaker, Julie Pangelian. We'll break out into 2 or 3 groups, depending if more people show up. And then we'll have a break, where you guys will craft an evaluation. We'll have a break. One person from each working group will come up here and do an evaluation for Julie, and then I will provide some feedback to each evaluator. There is many different methods of evaluation. The most common one that you work in Toastmasters seems to be the sandwich method. 1 point, good point, 1 or 2 points to improve, and then another good point to finish it off. And this method has its pros and cons, where people believe, oh well, they finish off on a positive note. And yes, that's true. But the one thing about Toastmasters for me is I didn't come here to get my ego stroked, which was the positive note. I came here to improve as a speaker. And that's why I'm not sure the sandwich method is my favorite, because I like people to get an evaluation where they feel that they learned something from what you've told them. And I'm not sure that that message gets across when I do the sandwich method. Maybe it does for you. The other method is objectives. Before every speech, we have the speaker's objectives, which are presented by their evaluator. And some people like just to discuss the objectives and see how well the speaker did. The problem with that is that what if they need something severely corrected? They walk around like this, which has nothing to do with the objectives. And sometimes if you're only working on the objectives, that could be missed. The next is the evaluation sheet. At the back of every speech in your manual, we here at East Ottawa do this, not all clubs do this. We photocopy the evaluation sheet, not just for the evaluator, but everybody in the club actually has a chance to fill out the evaluation sheet. And I've seen some evaluations done completely on the questions at the back of the evaluation sheet. It has the same limitations as the objectives, which is if there's something that has nothing to do with that speech, but is something that could be worked on, it may not get mentioned. Remember, you only have 2 to 3 minutes to do an evaluation. And the last one that I'm going to talk about today is BMO. BMO is the rest of this presentation. I'll break down BMO as we get to it. So why did you join Toastmasters? Mario, you're brand new at this. Why did you join Toastmasters?
To improve my speaking ability.
To become a better speaker, absolutely. The majority of people join Toastmasters to become a better speaker. And how do you become a better speaker? Getting feedback. If you just talk all day long and nobody tells you that you're doing right or wrong, you're just going to continue talking. You might babble. I used to. I do a lot less now, because nobody told me I babbled. Now they tell me all the time. So why do you want to evaluate? Evaluate because you become a better speaker. When you get up in front of this podium, you become a better speaker. So when you're performing an evaluation, you become a better speaker. You're helping others improve. In the same way that you want people to give you feedback when you're doing your presentation, when you're doing an evaluation, we're all helping each other. And that's how we all improve, yourself and the person you're evaluating. You become a better listener. When you're doing a speech, you talk. When you're doing an evaluation, you have to really concentrate on what the speaker is saying. And the reason is because you have to make the notes of where you think they can improve and where they've done very well. You learn to give constructive feedback. Ever been at work and you're in a meeting and someone says something that's just completely off base? How do you tell that person? The one thing I've learned from evaluations is how to tell that person. I can take that person aside and say, you know, I liked what you said, but how about if you would have said it this way? Do you think maybe we would have understood it a little bit better? A year ago, I couldn't have said that to that person. I would have said, I didn't really quite believe what you were saying. So you learn how to give constructive feedback. Here's my biggest thing I've learned from evaluation, how to accept constructive feedback. Even as an evaluator, by giving feedback, you now understand what people are trying to tell you. The other thing is if you have a good general evaluator, the general evaluator will also give you feedback on how well you gave your feedback to the speaker. You learn from doing evaluations. And you learn through careful observations of others. I had a severe problem of speaking like this at one time. I gave an evaluation of someone who was actually standing like this. And I pointed it out to him and I said, geez, you know what? I'm a hypocrite because I stand like that all the time, just with the opposite foot. I stopped doing it the day I criticized or gave feedback to someone else for doing it. So by watching others and giving others feedback, you learn yourself. And that's why you evaluate. So what are the main goals as an evaluator? The biggest one, to encourage the speaker to do another speech. How many of you here, and I want you to raise your hands on this one, were very nervous about being evaluated when you did your first speech? How many of you thought you had a very good evaluation after your first speech? Okay. Did it not make you want to speak again? That's the whole point of being a good evaluator. You're getting encouraged to do another speech. To help the speaker improve. We didn't come here to have our ego stroked, as I mentioned. We came here because we want to become better at something. Listening, speaking. An evaluator should help a speaker improve every next speech. When I first was speaking, one of the things, I knew I was a very decent speaker as it was. I maybe thought too highly of myself, to be honest with you. And evaluations actually lowered my expectations of myself and made me understand that I had lots of room to improve. And how was I going to do it? My evaluators taught me how to do it. This was before I joined this club. This was about 11 years ago when I first joined Toastmasters, and I had left for about 8 years. There was some shock to Toastmasters when I first joined. But the evaluators certainly taught me how to improve my speaking skills. There's things to avoid when you do an evaluation, and these are very, very important. Avoid retelling the whole speech. You can go with bits and pieces, but what happens if you retell the entire speech in your evaluation? You're going to go 3 to 4 minutes over. The speech is 5 to 7 minutes on average. The majority of speeches are 5 to 7 minutes. You have 2 to 3. If you run a contest and you retold the whole speech, you'd be done a long time ago and eliminated. Bits and pieces, half a line. You're not trying to stress everything that the speaker did, just what they did well and what they could improve on. Avoid speaking about the speaker in the third person. The speech tonight is going to be about Julie. She's our test speaker. Speak directly to Julie. She is the person who's going to get the feedback from your speech, from your evaluation. Sorry. It's not she. It's not. I'm not going to speak to Nadia or Dana or Diego. My evaluation is all between Julie and I. It's about her and not me. I'm not doing a performance here. I'm here to help Julie improve as a speaker. So that's where you have to understand, yes, you're trying to improve your own skills, but your main goal, if you're going to be an effective and a good evaluator, is if the speaker gets skills that she learns from your evaluation. Avoid speaking for the entire room. One of the things was the biggest shock to me when I first did a speech. We used to have the handwritten evaluations. And I got them back my first day, and I went home, and Jim has since corrected my advice, don't read them until the next day. I read them immediately. And you know what, I was surprised? 7 people said, oh, I really liked how you did this. It was the ending of my speech. I really liked how you ended your speech. 2 people said, that was a really tough ending. I really wish you would have changed the ending of your speech. And I'm looking at 2 people hated it, and 7 people loved it. You cannot read the minds of every person in this room. Don't ever try. We're all different. So don't speak for others. This is only your opinion. And that's one of the things we have to remember when doing an evaluation. So what is the focus of an evaluation? There are only 2 things that you should be focusing on when you're doing an evaluation. The speaker's strengths and suggestions for the speaker to improve. So let's talk about strengths. Identify the speaker's strengths. Confidence. Build a foundation on how to improve speeches. The CC manual is perfect for that. One thing at a time culminates to speech 9 and 10, where you put them all together. Positive reinforcement. So that's when you're doing an evaluation, you're doing positive reinforcement. Help the speaker reach their objectives on future speeches. You can't help them anymore in this speech. But if you tell them what they did or needed correcting, maybe on future speeches, they'll nail that. A lot of the problem with the CC manual, and I'm extremely guilty of this, is that we fly through it. We don't read the projects in great detail. We don't look at the objectives. We just want to do a speech about vocal variety. We didn't even look about what the objectives were for vocal variety. We just said, oh, well, I'll use my voice. Look at the objectives. They culminate. And they also affect future projects. Avoid whitewash. That was a great speech. You're such a good speaker. Why? Why are they a good speaker? Why was that a good speech? Be specific. I enjoyed that speech because your enthusiasm was contagious. Your voice is so pleasant and rhythmic, I enjoyed listening to you. Here's some of the strengths that you can notice. Let's see if I can get the leaves going. Delivery and use of notes are the 2 major ones, especially with advanced speakers. Use of notes is one that we don't like to see, right? We're very cool with our beginner speaker using notes, but as you go along, you should be using notes less and less. Speak about it. Gestures, vocal variety are the common ones we like to talk about. Speech writing skills is one of the ones that isn't discussed very often in evaluations, and it's because people are very worried about saying that they're a better writer than everybody. But speech writing skills are something that can be discussed in evaluation, especially when on a strong, well-written speech. How well it's organized. Opening, body, conclusion, word choice, grammar. Personal skills is another one. Confidence, grooming, voice quality. Confidence is often one that we do discuss. But how often do we discuss voice quality or charisma? They're skills. So don't be afraid to characterize them as a strength when you're doing your evaluation. This presentation is about BMO. And now I'm going to get into the real meat of BMO. This is what separates this type of evaluation from sandwich method objectives and the evaluation method. It's all about suggesting how people improve. And the one feedback I've gotten whenever I've done a BMO speech is, wow, you know what? You left me with 2 points that I know I could walk out of here with and use to improve my next speech. And that's when I know, no matter how bad an evaluation I thought I did, if they got that out of the speech, if the speaker got that out of the speaker got what I was intending to deliver. And that's all that's important. The speaker will improve. So what is BMO? Behavior. B for behavior. What did the speaker say or do? Impact. How did it make you feel? So if something the speaker said, something the speaker did, what was your internal feeling of what the speaker said or did? What modification? What could the speaker have done differently? An outcome? How would that have changed the impact of the speech if they performed that modification? Let's start with behavior. You're looking to evaluate what the speaker said or did, how they said it or did it, and did the speaker reach his objectives? Sometimes behavior is a little bit confusing because you think of speech writing skills. It's still part of behavior. They had a body, an opening, they had a body, they didn't conclude. That's a behavior, it's lacking. The one thing you don't want to judge when you're looking at behavior is personality. There's a club in Area 32, this guy walked in, and he's wearing this hat, long hair, and sunglasses. The guy looked like Johnny Depp. I'm not kidding you. He walked into the room and looked like Johnny Depp. The second that guy spoke, I looked around the room, and 4 people didn't even turn their heads to look at him. They were judging his personality. And you certainly don't want to judge what somebody looks like. One of the things people have made comments that this club is very multicultural, and it's pretty cool that when you walk into this room, you don't want to be judging anybody by their culture. You have no idea when you're looking at somebody. You might think that that's their second language, and they come out in this stage and they are the best speaker you'll ever have heard. Don't ever think of somebody as the way they look or feel, just because or the way they're dressed. They might surprise you. So you never judge personality or in behavior. Impact. You want to focus on the words or actions that the speaker used and what impact that had on you. What were you thinking as she spoke? What was the result inside you? If someone said something to you and you're listening and, there's maybe a sign that's something you want to correct with her or suggest that they correct. If you have a ooh, that's probably an idea where that speaker needs to do some, or it's up to them, right? You can only suggest. But you might want to bring it up to them and how to improve that. So you don't want to think about how others felt. I explained that to you earlier about us all having different opinions. This is between you and the speaker, and only you and the speaker. We here at East Ottawa have our silent evaluation sheets that are filled out. Let them speak for the other members of the room. So modification. This is where you suggest your agreement. This is the meat and potatoes of the BMO evaluation, the modification. It's the things that is going to help the speaker grow. It's specific points from your point of view. If you talk better, I would really think it'd be great. What does that mean? If you used better, stronger grammar and more pauses, I would think I would understand you better. Be specific. Ask yourself, what could the speaker have done differently to affect me as a listener? I heard this. It kind of made me go, ooh. But if I would have heard this instead, maybe I would have been more comfortable. And that's the type of thing that you want to speak out during modification. And point out to the speaker, but remember, one of the things that you're always going to point out is if you do this, you're going to, one thing before we get to the outcome. When you're doing modifications, be positive. I hated that is not something you ever want to hear in a modification of an evaluation. Be specific and make a difference to the speaker's performance. I didn't really like your blue jeans. Is that really going to affect the speaker the next time they come up and do a presentation, especially in a contest? Well, he might not wear blue jeans, but he's still not going to win the contest. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the speaker's performance and what the speaker is doing and how you can help the speaker improve. There's items to avoid when you're doing modification. Anything beyond the speaker's ability. If the speaker stutters, there's nothing you can do about that to help that. It's probably way beyond your capabilities to assist a speaker if the speaker is a stutterer. If the speaker has very, very poor grammar and is from second language to a first, it's okay to point some things out. It's not necessarily okay to correct them extremely. Talk to them after and have them work on some grammar skills, but it's probably far beyond your reach. It's okay to point things like that out. If the speaker has a limp or stands there and doesn't move, find out if they had some reason why they couldn't move, probably before the speech. There's subjects that you don't want to discuss in front of the room. Let's say it's 35 degrees in this room and I've got sweat stains hanging all the way down my side and it's embarrassing. You might not want to bring that up to the speaker. It might not make him feel very comfortable at all. He probably already knows, but it's not something you want to bring up. You don't want to bring up anything that wants to make someone feel bad. When I was in Riverside Toastmasters years ago, we had a speaker come up and it was her second speech. The evaluator was doing his first evaluation. He made the speaker feel so bad, she never walked in the room again. You want to make sure that you're encouraging the speaker to speak again. Keep positive. An outcome is where this is, as much as the modification is the meat and potatoes, this is what people get from the BMO method. This is what they carry home. It should be the opposite of the impact. What effect would it have on you if the speaker changed the modification? And that's really important. So if you said this way instead of that way, I think I would have listened to you better. The speaker walks out thinking, wow, I would have got more attention. And that's the reason the BMO method works. So let's have an example. Behavior. During your speech, I noticed that you were walking back and forth. The pacer. The impact? It caused me to start watching you and lose track of what you were saying. The modification? May I suggest, instead of constantly moving, you walk to one part of the room, say what you have to say, speak to the audience, then move to another area and tell the audience your next piece. The outcome? I believe this would help you get your point across better with much less distraction. So let's put that all together. And think about this one. Really think about if you were told this, how much you would change your way of talking, or your way of moving around the room. During your speech, I noticed that you were pacing back and forth. It caused me to start watching you and to lose track of what you were saying. May I suggest that instead of constantly moving, you walk to one part of the room, stop, and speak to the audience. Then move to another area to tell the audience your next point. I believe that this would help you get your point across better with much less distraction. If you say it that way, doesn't it sound like you're going to understand a really strong point of improvement? One of the keys to BMO is when you're listening to do an evaluation, and this is something I strongly suggest, and I'm going to watch people while they're listening to Julie speak tonight, whether you're taking notes. I've provided you each with a template, so let's talk about the notes. You don't necessarily stop when you have all the points filled. And the reason why is something more important to improve might come along. Keep writing. You note the strengths and the behavior only. During the speech, you don't note the impact, the modification, or the outcome. And I'll tell you why. First, let's start with the strong points. That was great humor, great structure, the opening, body, and conclusion were fantastic, and that person hit all the objectives. Suggested improvements. You only note the behavior. The reason why is you'll remember the impact, and then the modifications come after anyway, and the outcome. you should be listening, continuing listening to the rest of the person speak. If you start trying to concentrate on the impact, the modification, the outcome, you're missing something of what the speaker told you. You're only taking notes at this point. After the speech, when you have time to complete your evaluation, you fill out the impact, modification, and outcome. So let's put it all together, and this is what a BMO evaluation might look like. You start with an opening. You thank the speaker for speaking. Thank you very much for giving us this presentation, taking the time out of your day to do this. Compliment the speaker. I really enjoyed listening to you. I can relate to that point because, and the key here, and this is really important in contest speaking, inform the speaker that this is only your opinion. Provide 2 points that you liked. What I might like most about your speech was that you made me laugh. You had a great sense of humor. I also really enjoyed how you concentrated on meeting your objectives for the speech, and you thought clearly that your objectives were important to you. You never use the words when you're suggesting, however, but. The one thing you want to use is, I would like to suggest a couple of points to improve on. Don't say though. Keep positive. Suggestions are just as positive as strengths. Then there's a whole, during the speech I noticed that you were pacing. That's your suggestion. It's not negative, so therefore it doesn't need a however, a but, or a though. Summarize the strengths and the suggestions at the end of your speech. So you've hit your 2 good strong points, you've hit your 2 corrections, the suggestions, and now you're going to do a summary. And if you want to win a contest, this is another point that's really, really, really important. It contains major points in contest speeches, is the conclusion. If you continue to use your humor and hit all your objectives in your speeches, while improving your body movements by not walking so much, and increase your use of pauses during transitions, your speeches will not only continue to entertain me, still me, but also improve at an amazing pace. Well done. Support, suggestion, so that they will encourage you to do the next speech. I look forward to hearing you speak again. Does that not sound something, if someone finished off an evaluation, would you not say, hey, I want to do this again? Is that not the tone that you would get from that type of statement? And that's the key, is making sure that the speaker speaks again. That is BMO in a nutshell. It is all about staying positive from the strengths to the improvements. Not once did I say anything negative in that presentation. And the reason why is because an evaluation isn't negative. It's all positive, especially if you're suggesting improvements. I'm opening the floor to questions. Anybody? Julie?
I just wanted to confirm, you said do the behavior column only during the speech, and then after the 2 minutes, then we start writing down the impact, modifications, and outcome?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you start doing the impact, you're starting to think yourself, and you're no longer listening to the speaker. So you wait till after. The impacts, as soon as you look right down in your notes and you look, that was behavior, you're going to remember how you felt as soon as, it's only 5 minutes ago. You'll remember right away, so then you can write it down after. You just have to be quick. If you're going into a contest, I think you have like 10 to 15 minutes. You've got 10 minutes, right? 5 minutes? Well, outside there's usually some time to, oh yeah, 5 minutes to craft your ballot. So 5 minutes is, you have to be fast, but it's enough time. You will get your notes back when you go inside the room. Dini, I think you had your hand up? No. Okay. Anybody else? Sanjeev?
Just personally, I always make suggestions and recommendations, but I don't use the word improvement. The reason being is that one, it's up to the speaker to then take what you suggest or recommend and apply it.
Absolutely.
And two, it may not work for that speaker.
No.
So it may not necessarily lead to improvement. Well, not the direct improvement, everything leads to improvement. So I'm careful about saying the word improvement. I just say, I will recommend some things for you to try next time.
Yeah. That's a good point.
It's just, that's the way I.
Absolutely, it's a very good point. I don't think I ever use the word improvement either. It's,
Yeah, they just,
in your head, it's an improvement, in their head.
and in Toastmasters language, they say that for improvement.
That just
too, but
happened recently when somebody evaluated
Yeah.
me.
It's not everything works for everybody.
That's right. It's their choice to use whatever you suggested.
Exactly, yeah.
Tabitha?
If this is an evaluation method that works for all of us here at East Ottawa, moving forward, would it make sense to have this like on the backs or the flip side of the evaluation forms that we fill out?
I'm going to say no, because not everybody likes this method of evaluation. Some people do not like this method of evaluation. This is a suggested method of evaluation. Some people are very prone to just evaluating the objectives. There is a couple of speeches on evaluation, I think, right? And if you read those, sandwich method is the one that comes up first. And if you're coming up with a new speaker, the sandwich method is definitely the easiest method to evaluate. If I'm doing an icebreaker evaluation, I might use sandwich method instead of BMO. Right. So everybody has their different methods and their personal choice.
May I add to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing to consider is not every evaluator, A, has any idea what this is, and more importantly, not every evaluator is at the same point in their own development. If Mario, for example, who is brand new, comes in and his first attempt at evaluating somebody is to use this, he may or may not be successful, whereby somebody like Sanjeev, who has been doing it for a while, can more rapidly assimilate the insights. So it's not for everybody, as Al says.
Yep, Sanjeev?
Question, just would you recommend, and I do this in the club here, but would you recommend that the evaluator, after they've done the evaluation, give these notes to the speaker?
That is, again, up to each evaluator. I wouldn't give my notes to the speaker, because there's some notes I may have written down that may, on my notes, be derogatory. When I come up here, they're not. So I've changed what I've written down to what I've said. And that's it. I don't write very well. My physical writing skills are very harsh. So I take shortcuts. I may use buzzwords that I really don't want the speaker to see. I prefer to take my notes and throw them in the garbage right after. Shred them if I can. But that's up to each individual person. If you write down what you really feel and it's all positive, hand them over if you'd like. But personally, I would never let my speaker see my notes. There you go.
Thanks for that, Al. Would you consider that this might be a resource that East Ottawa could use on its member downloads page of the website? Not to replace the typical evaluation, however, for members of the club who might be at different points on their Toastmasters journey, say I'm someone who is putting things together from the CC manual in speech number 9 or 10, and I would like a request for someone to give me a BMO evaluation, or if I'm working on a particularly tricky speech from one of the advanced manuals, can I say, I'd like to not do the objectives, but I want a BMO for this speech?
The objectives is part of BMO.
Okay.
So I constantly think that your objectives should be included.
Okay.
Now, there is times when you might say you're doing a manual and you might have an objective that you don't want to concentrate on. I'm actually, one of my mentees is doing a speech in a couple of weeks, and we went over the objectives of his speech, and one of them is far beyond his capabilities. But we've known that, so we're going to talk to his evaluator, he's going to talk to his evaluator, and say, I'm not going to concentrate on this objective. I'm not going to meet the objective. I'm going to concentrate on these two objectives instead. And that's always possible. You know, your projects are your own. You're trying to get whatever you want out of your time here at Toastmasters, right? So, but as for this template is not part of the original BMO presentation. It's something I've created. So absolutely, Jim will send him a soft copy and we can put it on the website at your discretion.
Yeah, I think it seems to be like a good resource to supplement the evaluator toolkit that we create here.
And it's modifiable because I modified BMO. This is not the presentation that I got. And in fact, Dana, I think have seen the original presentation because I've sent it to you. I sent it to Tabitha and Julie. This is a very modified version of it. Okay, I guess that's it for questions. Now, I've been wrong. Doesn't mean I start boxing. We are at a point where we're going to have a test speaker now.
Sorry? Yep, go ahead.
Our test speaker is Julie. Julie Pangelinen, that's her name, Pangelinen, has been a member of EOT for almost 2.5 years. She is a competent communicator and a competent leader. She was a BP membership for a term and a half at this club. This evening she is speaking from the Advanced Manual Public Relations. She is doing speech number 1, the Goodwill speech. Lately, she has been even more interested in the process of evaluations. She quizzes me on them quite regularly, actually. She attended the Blackburn Hamlet Toastmasters Club on last Thursday. They had an evaluation workshop. And she found it to be a valuable skill that she can apply to not only in Toastmasters, but in other areas of her life as well. She is delighted to be speaking this evening. That's good, because don't you hate the one I'm delighted to be speaking? Julie Pangelinen, with the similarities with being a business owner and being a Toastmaster. The similarities with being a business owner and being a Toastmaster, Julie Pangelinen.
Thank you, Al. Fellow members and guests this evening, thank you for coming out of your way this evening, everybody, for being part of this meeting. Ever since Toastmasters, I found and felt a really tremendous difference in the way that I run my yoga business. I'm more confident and I'm less anxious. As a business owner, I have to be skilled at proficiently teaching my yoga classes and the way I communicate myself, because I'm leading as an example. I also have to be a community builder. So communication is key in running a business, especially like a business like a yoga studio. This evening I'm going to talk about the similarities between being a Toastmaster and owning a studio. First, when I teach a yoga class or when I hold staff meeting, it's very similar to speech preparation. I have to think about what my message is, or what my main messages are going to be. I have to not give too much information so that the information doesn't get too diluted. And just like a speech preparation, I have to take my time, I have to breathe, and I have to ground myself. So it's similar when I have meetings and when I prepare a speech. If you look at the word community and communication, they're interwoven into each other and they almost mean the same thing. Secondly, when I give speech evaluations in Toastmasters and when I take my yoga teacher's class and I give them feedback on how their class was. It's a new thing that my business partner and I did. Every time if you're a yoga teacher and you take a yoga class, give the teacher feedback on what you thought, what you saw, and what you heard in the class, just like Toastmasters. And I have to give the information in a way that's heartfelt, I have to be compassionate, and I have to be honest. And I want to give this information in a way where it's in like a safe environment. So similar to Toastmasters, because I want our teachers to want to come back to the studio and teach at the studio again. So we have to build rapport and inspire teachers to come back. Third, I'm always sometimes put in a situation where I have little or no time to respond. Does that sound familiar? It's like table topics, right? That 2 minutes that often feels like 5 to 7 sometimes. I'm a member of the BIA, the Business Improvement Association of Orleans. I'm a board member. And oftentimes when we have breakfasts, the city councilors attend the meeting. And once I was put on a spot and I was asked, Julie, how does Moksha Yoga Orleans contribute to the community? And my first reaction was, before I actually spoke, in my mind was, like in my mind that's how I would answer. But after being a member, I was able to focus on one way on how my business contributes to the community and just elaborate on that one idea instead of telling him the 6 different ways that we contribute to the community. Because otherwise it would be like an automatic ping pong in a box. That's how my mind, similar to how your mind kind of works. I'm also a member of the Orleans Chamber of Commerce, and I get an opportunity to stand up and talk about my business for 20 seconds. And that's not a lot of time, but it's a good way to grab the bull by its horns and speak impromptu. And I have to try to stand out of all the other yoga studios. It's been a challenge for me being a business owner and being the introvert that I am and being a Toastmaster. But I find that with the main roles and the supportive roles, I'm slowly coming out of my shell, sort of like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. To wrap up, I feel that everything that I do in Toastmasters is directly related to how I run my business and how I communicate with the students in the studio and the teachers that teach at the studio. I hope that you have found similar benefits with your Toastmasters membership and how you communicate on your work. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you very much, Julie. This next part of the meeting is we're going to break out into two groups. I was hoping to do three, but I think we're going to be okay with two groups of one of 8 and one of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 5, I think it'll work.
Yeah.
3, 5. Okay, 3 groups of 5. So we're going to break it out really easily. Jim, Sanjeev, and Bertilia are going to lead a group. Out of each group, one person is going to come up and do the presentation for the group.
Not us.
Not you. It's not going to be Jim Bertilia or... Actually, can Jim Bertilia and Sanjeev get up for our guests, please?
We'll stay here.
Who's, guess which one's Bertilia?
I like that.
So I will break you into groups of 5. So I will have a break right after the working group. And then we'll come back and each of you will do your evaluation of Julie's speech one at a time. So I will number you 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3.
You have to confuse me when I could just do 5 here and 5 here.
Bertilia, you're number 1. Sanjeev, you're with group number 2. And Jim is with group number 3. If you have any questions...
You want me to get up, right?
Yes. 1 will meet over here, 2 will meet at the back room, and 3 will meet on this side. So break up.
So what am I?
Have a nice little session with each other.
She's 3. She's 3.